Hi, welcome to Meeple, uniting players from around the world. I'm PJ.
And I'm Gareth.
And on today's episode 17, welcome to Your Perfect Game Room. Gareth, how are you, sir?
I'm okay. Really well, actually. Episode 17, talking about game rooms, game spaces, what you put in them, what you don't put in them, how you might store your board games, which I know is a very personal and often emotional topic.
I agree, it is emotional.
Yeah. I mean, we'll get into vertical, very horizontal in a minute, but have you got a game space?
I do. I am currently sitting in my game area right now. This
Dedicated?
is where Yep. Well, yes and no. My basement is shaped very weirdly, and I kind of have divided it. So this half where I'm sitting right now is my game room. The other half is kind of a living room TV viewing area. So that's a little shared.
Man, I wish I had a basement. That's the kind of I've got a dining room that's converted into a games room, but a basement would be so much more cooler.
Well, okay, maybe. I don't. Yes and no. You are right. It can be, but you have a board game palace.
It's not a palace. It's a very small palace, but it is a palace. It's a small rectangular gaming space. That
I guess the photographs are misleading because I just imagine your game room to be just beautiful just from the photos.
It's nicely decorated. I painted it white. It's very clean and crisp. But we're out of space. But that's a different episode.
Which is but that's kind of why
trading games.
Oh yeah. But that's kind of why we're talking about this, right? It's just, do you have a dedicated game space? So I ran into a few friends on Friday at our local game store and kind of talked about this a little bit. We were catching up. These are friends I hadn't seen since before the pandemic. And we were talking about, so board game night at the game store has been reopened, and he's doing that on Tuesday nights now. And none of us go. I think the reason why is that those of us who don't go anymore, we now have homes, and our homes have dedicated game spaces, right? Which I feel okay with, because now it allows. So when my wife and I first moved to Springfield, we lived in an apartment, so we didn't have a space, and we discovered Titan Games, and it was a great opportunity. But now we have a home, so now that allows people who don't have a home and a dedicated game space to go and play, and we don't have to take up that space with our big, massive 3-hour 3-hour plus Nemesis on a Wednesday night in the south of UK, which I was lucky enough to get I got play-by-play for that. That was beautiful. So thanks for including.
You got side match commentary from across the table as people were telling you all their darkest secrets about who they were going to betray. I think the word is, but
that was a lot of fun. So
yeah, I mean, we are very lucky that we've got the space to have, or at least use what was the dining room as a games room, and a very, very caring partner who allows me to get away with it.
And that night you had 5 people around the table.
We had 5 around the table. Yeah.
So that's a pretty decent sized space.
We can get 6 if you take the table away from the wall, but that makes the room a bit tight because of shelving. I mean, if we didn't have so many, so we use Kallax primarily, IKEA's favorite board game storage. As our primary source. We have got a couple of smaller shelving, but because of the way that's configured, it does make it a bit tighter when we want to fit 6 around it. But yeah, I guess I do. I must admit, when I go places, particularly older housing who've got in the UK, like Victorian ceilings are really high. Like in Obsession, those ceilings are really high. Got it in.
Oh yes,
Obsession referencing. I just sit there going, how many Kallax could I fit up? Or how much board games could I fit in this room? So I think if I ever go and buy a new house or move house, it will be the number of Kallax is the driving factor of whether that house is for me. And
when Katie and I were looking at, okay, so we have a combination. We have a combination of, I know that you can see behind me that's not Kallax's. There's a company here in the States, and not just the States, it's regional because they didn't have them back home. Back in the South, I had never heard of this store. It's called Menards,
Right.
and they're kind of like Lowe's or Home Depot, but so they sell these. They're basically the same thing as a Kallax, but it's their own brand. They're a little bit narrower because I've got a 3x3 Kallax, and then I've got a 2x3 stacked above it, and that's kind of creating a wall between my living area and my game area. So I've got those shelves there. So we have a mixture of Kallax, a mixture of off-brand. I can fit 6 around my table.
Nice.
And then off in the corner is the crafting area. So it's like crafting, gaming, living. It's like I said, it's a weird
It's
space.
It is the perfect game space.
It's
the other ones I use
it's
is
not
Billy. Is the Billy IKEA range, which are slightly shallower. And I think if I was going to do the room again, I would potentially put Billy the whole way around. Just
really
the reason for the Kallax is because they're quite deep, but actually there's a load of wasted space at the back of a Kallax. If me being a bit tidy, like all my games faced up along the front, but that leaves about a void of maybe 5 centimeters. Now I hide games behind there, and I hide expansions behind there. Some people say push the game to the back and put a game in front, but then it kind of loses the let me browse my games collection. I think
that is true.
Yeah. So
there's someone, I don't know who it is right now. I can't think off the top of my head, on Instagram, and that's exactly what she does. Like her entire wall of game shelves has all the games pushed back, and then she's got one game front facing.
Yeah,
I don't know.
It does look really nice.
But it does.
I have done it in the past. I have done it when I'm out of space, but right now, I find it quite frustrating because I have to look behind stuff. But yeah, storage. So we've talked about the room. We've talked about storage. Are you a vertical or are you a horizontal game placement person?
I'm all of the above.
Complete anarchy.
It's not anarchy. So, okay, you know what? It might be chaos. So back to what we were just talking about. I have some shelves that I can reach on both sides because I basically created a wall
out dividing
shelving. Yeah.
Nice.
So I can go into the living area and access. So I have a couple of games that are front facing, like we just talked about. Not many, but I have a few. So if I want to, I can just go to the other side. I can see what's there behind those boxes. I do some games vertical. Games that have inserts, I have vertical. Games that don't have inserts, I keep horizontal, and I prefer horizontal.
Do you?
But I do. I do, yeah. But again, so I'm like Kallax and off-brand. I'm like vertical and horizontal. I'm like front-facing. It is organized. It's just, I embrace diversity. Diversity in game storage, ladies and gentlemen. So there was a Kickstarter last year that we backed, and it's direct to this. So you're going to get a bunch of like these dowel rods and holders, right? So that you can keep everything horizontally and fit them accordingly, right?
You can basically pull them out.
Yes, and we're looking forward to.
Is it not shipped?
No, it hasn't. I'm going to have to check with my wife on when fulfillment comes for that. I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah, I must admit, I looked at it, but the number of Kallax cubes, it soon added up, and I was like, oh, and I stack primarily vertically, purely because of, I think when we first started collecting or having a collection of games, they were horizontal, because I quite like horizontal, but I started to see wear and tear, so I decided to go vertical. But of course, there's loads of games where the in-game storage is it's not necessarily tight enough if you go vertical. So there's quite a few games that go on the shelf are horizontal. And then there's a game of Tetris that I have to play to fit as much games in space as possible. So you'll look and it's, horizontal and a couple of games tucked in on the top. the top of the calyx is always the big boxes. So
Yep.
things like, Everdell, that doesn't even fit in the calyx anymore. And then I've got a separate section for small games. So so IKEA do a really nice CD storage, very narrow,
Mm-hmm.
that fits
Yeah.
in two parts of my room. That normally you wouldn't have the capability to put space into, but I've got two of those tucked in for small
That's
games.
interesting. That is. That's cool. Yeah. Okay.
All
I
small
have
box fit.
we've got one of those. So it's like a canvas. It's like a canvas box. It fits.
Oh yeah,
it
I know what you mean.
slides.
Yeah, like
Right.
a cube.
Like a drawer or whatever. We put all of those that fit, mind you. All of our 2-player games
Yeah.
are in one of those. And then down on the bottom is all of our small games.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea. I think I've got those in
Tiny
the garage. I think I used to
tiny
just get
epics
annoyed.
and things. Yeah.
Tiny epic games.
So
I think the biggest thing I've seen or noticed since, and we've been collecting games or playing games since 10 years this year, has been boxes. I used to moan that boxes weren't standardized 10 years ago. And these days, it's out of control. So much that I'm going to remove from downstairs all of the big boxes. So, Too Many Bones is full calyx size. Dwellings of
Everdale.
Everdale. Everdale? Eldervale.
Eldervale.
Eldervale. Everdale. And those are taking up, if I take a calyx, probably 4 games. So in the office that I'm recording in now, I've got some calyx spare for overflow, really for selling games, but that's going to become big box storage just to squeeze in more downstairs. But yeah, the size of games, is crazy.
So you were just lamenting that you don't have a basement. So here's one of the downfalls to the basement, and each basement is not created equally. So behind me is 3 high. I could have theoretically I could get a 4, but I could not.
Easy a 6 in there.
No, this is misleading. You could not fit. You could fit a 5 by 5,
and then 3 and a 2 on top.
Yes, it would be, but it would be touching the drop ceiling. And that takes away my beautiful empty box wall art, which I think we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about that in another episode, I think. Right?
Yeah, I throw my boxes away. You keep yours, so let's keep that for another episode because I'm sure you're going to get annoyed with me. But okay, so we've talked about storage, shelving. What about on the table? So have you got a dedicated games table, or is it just a standard dining table?
I have 2.
I mean, you're just greedy. Two games tables or dining?
No. I have 2 tables that we play games on. I have 2 gaming surfaces. So the table that I'm at right now, where I do recording, was a standard IKEA dining room table that was in our apartment, and we reached out to my father-in-law, who does a lot of woodworking, and he built us. So we gave him the measurements of the top of the surface of the table, and then he built basically a game table, but it's
like
just
a table, like a table topper,
like a topper, and it just sits on top, and it doesn't move. It does not slide or anything.
Does it always stay on there, or do you take it off?
Yes.
Yeah.
I only take it off when my wife needs the table space for quilting or some other crafting, because we can just take it off, lean it against the wall for a couple hours. She does what she needs to do, and then it comes back. Then we have a larger table upstairs. So on our Saturday game days, when we were playing Gloomhaven, we would stay upstairs because it's like right there next to the kitchen. And for those of you who haven't, I recommend listening to our episode on food and game pairings, where we talked a lot about what we eat at the table. And so whenever my wife and I are just playing 2-player game down here, every other Thursday night, I got my friend, he comes over and we just play 2-player games, and we play down here. So This is the Star Wars Rebellion table, by the way. All those big games, they stay down here. So yeah, I've got a mixture. I am an equal opportunity, diversity in all forms, but I don't have a real. You have a real game table.
Yeah, but I think so. The game stoppers, I see them. Yeah, they're really popular on Kickstarters and other, crowdfunding sites that come in various shapes and sizes, and it does help if you don't want to spend out on a custom games table.
I'm of the opinion, though, if I'm going to spend the money, I'm going to buy big fancy like what you have.
Yeah, but
I don't game tables. I mean, I understand we've got a budget. We all have our own financial. We know our own finances, and I understand that. But I think one day I want to get a game table, a true game table, right down here in our game area. I mean, I love this. This is great. I mean, my father-in-law did an amazing job. Don't take anything away from that. But I'd really love to have a game table.
So I've got I've got a Geekinson, which I think so it's about 5 years old now. So I think there was maybe a few others. I mean, now there's loads of choice, so much more choice and cheaper. But I mean, it's really done well. I mean, you wouldn't know it's 5 years old. And it's got the sunken, what's it called? Vault? That's not, is it a vault? What's it called? But
I don't know.
It's lower than, which we use a lot. But recently, because games are taking up more space in terms of footprint on the table, we often leave the table leaves on, and we've got a custom mat, so neoprene mat that fits the entire table.
Okay.
Just so, because some of the games, I'm thinking, like even Nemesis needs a few extra bit of space, so we use that quite a lot. So sometimes you have two games set up, one under the table, and then keep that running, and then we play a game on top of the table. So we can leave things set up, which is quite nice. That's an advantage.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
But yeah, it's something I don't think we'd upgrade at some point, maybe. What about game mats? Do you use game mats?
So I do. We have a huge neoprene mat upstairs on the dining room table that we measured it out. We found one online, ordered it. So when we're gaming, we roll it out. Otherwise, there's a tabletop. Oddly enough, we bought a beautiful gray board game table neoprene mat with the stitched edging. You could put it in the washing machine, which is amazing. And it's actually sitting on this table because my father-in-law used like this pool table felt instead of like the more felt that you see. And so we grabbed the neoprene mat, put it here. And so again, diversity. We're just going to embrace it all. You would probably hate my house because it's just chaos.
It doesn't look chaos. It looks fine. Maybe we should I'm thinking maybe I should do a tour like I did about 3 years ago on Instagram.
We should do that.
We should do that over the next week. Maybe when this goes live that week. Add that to schedule. If you're watching, listen to this. Check out Instagram. Certainly, I've got one from 3 years ago, but I think maybe a new tour would be in order.
I have never provided a tour of my space.
I think
that's not true. That's not true. When you and I first met almost a year ago.
Happy Instaversary.
Right? Yeah. Meeple Monday.
What date was it?
It was November 1st.
Wow. It's next week.
It's 2 days from now. I think at one point, because I still have the longest running of your episodes.
I think you do actually. Oh, I have to go and check. I think you might do actually.
4.5 hours, I believe it was.
It was an episode and a half.
And I think I took you on a walk of my space. I held my phone out and was like,
you did.
I did do that. Yeah.
You need that solo.
It hasn't changed very much. So yeah, but we should definitely do that. That would be cool. I'd love to see more of that. Like all of our listeners and just our friends in the Instagram community, man, I would love to see more. What's your space look like?
Well, maybe we'll get a trend set up and we'll get people going live, or at least videoing things for a minute. Now,
Yeah.
one of my biggest things for my games room that I get obsessed about, which is probably crazy, is lighting.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we've got
And
lights.
your table has cool lighting built in.
Yeah, but it's not enough to light the room. But I like,
No.
maybe it's my age, but I like to see things really brightly. I hate a dark, well, not a dark room, but a room that hasn't necessarily got bright lights. So I've ended up, because when I used to do Meeple Monday, my Instagram shows, I used to have lighting set at the back. So I bought just a photography set of lights that now sit in the room behind, which I turn on, and then they bounce off the ceiling. And it gives really bright lights. But I have thought about buying LED panel lighting to put in the ceiling, but it feels like I'm getting carried away. But it seems to be just me that gets obsessed about lighting.
I think lighting is something that we all collectively as gamers take for granted. I think everyone would agree it's important. Maybe we don't obsess over it, or we just don't vocalize it, right? We just,
get on with it. That's lighting anyway.
I bet people come over to your house and they play a game and they notice that they enjoy the experience slightly more than somewhere else. And it's because of the lighting, and they've never thought about it because we don't think about lighting, but I think it matters. And I don't think it has anything to do with age or eyesight. So I was listening to you talk about lighting, and I was thinking about the 10th anniversary of Pandemic. I know it's not one of your favorite games, but the board, okay, it's got a matte finish, but the cities have like a little glossy finish. There's some glossy finish,
like spot
touches.
printing, kind of.
Yeah. And if you have bright light, it'll make that pop.
Yeah.
And I like, that's cool, right? Because if the designer is going to put that little element and that feature into their game design, I want my lighting to reflect that so that I can enjoy even
reflect.
Yeah.
That's the only downfall on those sort of spot printing or things is if you're doing Instagram photographs and you're trying to move to get the shot in and the lights are bouncing off. But they are cool. They are cool.
So you and I have this same problem, right? You and I both have 4 eyes, and you get a ring light and take a picture and it reflects off of our glasses, and
really are problems we have. What about so do you have component trays or any, because I have like silicon cupcake holders for holding components on the table. I've got a set of printed trays. It's like 2x2s, 3x3s, dice trays. There's loads of accessories that I've acquired over the years. Anything you would never do without.
Look at that, huh?
That's a beautiful.
It's a little dice tower with a tray that we picked up from Gen Con 2 years ago. I'm not a big dice tower fan, to be fair.
I used to have a really cool plastic one that you drop the dice in, and it was see through, and it all cascaded, and then I dropped it, and it broke forever.
Oh no!
That was the end of that.
I like the feeling of rolling the dice and dropping it in a tower. Just for me, doesn't feel, But to your question, yes, we do have Zen bins for components. We just recently picked up a bunch of the Stonemeyer games off their website. They've got the little trays for
I
components.
know what you mean. Yeah, nice.
Yeah, and they're brown in color, which is nice. So now we have a whole set for upstairs, and we have a whole set downstairs, which is great. Because some games require more, right? Like Red Cathedral has so many resources. You need all these trays. Well, then you got to go downstairs and get 1 or 2 more. You bring them upstairs, and then you come downstairs and play a different game. And you're like, oh yeah. So now we have 2 sets. So yeah, I definitely have to have that. You have, when upgrading components, you have a whole storage solution.
Yeah.
Right.
So Jamie Stegmeyer, I don't know, maybe 8-9 years ago, did a Kickstarter of 3 or 4 different boxes of 6 to 8. So you had gold and not gold, but metals and corn and food. And so I think I ended up having all the 4 boxes. And of course, over time, you also end up with spares because games come with, or you sell games
Yep.
or you break games up. So I went out and bought the sort of storage solution you find like in your garage or in your shed. So lots of little trays. So I put them all in there, and then I got one of those label printers and labeled them all out, which just makes setup easier. So, but not again, over time, games components now compared to even 5 or 6 years ago, everything just steps up. I mean, the cost has stepped up as well, but that's my bling corner where I've got storage bits for components. I've got a tray of just sleeves, and then there's another tray of small parts and pens and dry white pens, all the accessories that any board gamer may or may not need.
So we're really big into upgrading components as well, but when you have a spouse, a significant other who's crafty, we crafted our game components, right, that we upgraded. So you take the upgrades, you put them in the board game, and then I've got in frames on the wall like all the scythe meeples and various other tokens that we put in like little shadow boxes.
Really cool
to hang on the wall.
I've got a bag of meeples and wooden components that come from prototypes that I've been sent that I want to get like either a large jar or a glass container to pour them into.
Yep.
So I need that's a job to be done at some point.
So there's a lot of antique stores here. They'll sell like the mason jars, and they're filled with the components of a board. Now, granted, this is like Monopoly or Sorry or Candyland, but it's all filled up. And we're like, and that's where my wife and I got the idea. It's like, that's really cool. And so we're like, we have all these upgraded components. In fact, we have more. I think she's got more over there. All kind of components. Like, what do we do with them? Right. We don't want to throw them away.
Yeah, exactly. You never know. You might need them.
You never know. Well, I mean, we can't get them back. They're permanently crafted, and but we can show them off. We can be like, look at this. This is cool. So, yeah. How do you decorate your game space? Or do you?
I did, but that turned into shelving space. So the only other bit, so I used to have a few pictures and various geeky things on the wall on one side. And then when I was in IKEA, they sell really narrow shelves, maybe 2 or 3 inches, so 8 centimeters deep. I think they're to go above radiators, heating, but they're about either half a meter or a meter long. So I bought 6 of those and put them on the wall, and they're perfect board game depth. So a bit like your wall art, where you've got boxes stuck to the wall. Any games that we're currently playing end up there. So they're kind of like the hot wall. They're the ones that are in the zone that we just go, oh yeah, we've got to keep this playing. Or the whole 10 by 10 challenge, they go there. So they're front of mind. The rest of the room, we've got a clock. And that's it.
I like it. It's minimalist. Yeah. It's simple. I have a question. We've talked about vertical, horizontal, and whatnot. What about the organization of your games? Like, how do you organize them? More to the point,
in the order.
Yeah. To use terms from my profession, how do you arrange them?
So it used to be kind of by mechanic or by designer or by publisher. So, for example, there's a whole section of Uwe Rosenberg. There's a whole section of Portal games. There's a section of Vital Lacerda games. And after that is Chaos. There are bits where similar games like spacey games or farming games end up being, or 2-player games like the Lookout games, the Square Box Lookout games, 2-player games. I have thoughts about taking them all off and trying to arrange them either by complexity, but it'll just come back to space efficiency. So in a previous career, I was what they call a space planner, but it was for retail. So I just look at space and go, how do I get the most optimal usage of my shelves? Which usually then means that you can't stick to, a certain thing. I have seen some people completely do it by order of color. So by shade.
I've seen that.
Which looks amazing, but I think every time I get a new box, I've got a reshuffle, which I guess maybe is more like a library. You always, depending on letter coming. How about you? Is yours in any order?
So we gave that a shot when we moved into the house, and it's like we finally have a designated space. It's like, how do we organize them? Okay, so all the 2 players are together. That's easy, right? 2 players, those are good. Small box, they're together. And as we talked about in a previous episode, Vital Lacerda, all those games they fit together.
Perfect,
Yeah, they fit together. I have a Stonemaier shelf. Well, I've
got a Stonemaier shelf.
I've got 4 Kallaxes of Stonemaier. After that, it just falls apart.
Yeah, same.
We tried. You tried. Do you want to do theme? Do you want to do mechanic? Because we have friends over and we host game nights, sometimes I don't want them to decide what we're playing. And as a good host, I want to give my guests the opportunity. So I think organizing is important because I can say, hey, go downstairs, pick a game. And then, if I know you, I'm going to be like, so Gareth, the worker placements are on this shelf over here.
I think it's just there's so many games that are blended mechanics now that you go, is it worker placement? Is it a deck builder?
Right.
One thing I would like, go on.
And there's no standard in size like we talked about. So
yeah. One thing I'd like to add to the wall is put an old iPad or an old tablet on the wall with
your entire collection.
Yeah,
listed?
well, because there's like Geek Group is one of the websites where you can put your collection in and people can just put in the filters in. And you think that would be quite cool. I have thought about putting a projector on the one wall to project TV onto the other because they're quite cheap. It's only a cheap projector. It's not a very big room.
That's true.
Just a bit of TV in there. But so that is games rooms and our perfect gaming space. Obviously, very lucky to have the game space like that.
I am just happy to have the space. To be fair, it's not perfect; it still needs work, but I'm glad to have it. And I love hosting.
I love hosting,
and this is a great episode to follow up. So I would suggest that for our listeners, go back and listen to the food and music pairing episode. Right, this one and that one really pair well together. I'm sorry we separated them by so many weeks, but yeah, if you listen, I talk about how much I love to cook. So clearly, I love to host. So
perfect.
Yeah,
match.
I've got a game space. I've got an adjacent bedroom for you to stay in when you come visit.
What a win! Honestly, that'll happen at some point. And if anybody wants to ask any questions, I will definitely, on the back of this, do another tour, certainly of my game space. So if anybody wants to see anything in particular or wants to understand some games, it's been a while since I've done a live, so I fancy it live. Yeah, let's do better.
Yeah.
So thanks, PJ, for another fascinating conversation about the world of board games, and this one, board game storage, shelves, space, components, tables, lighting, play mats, component trays. We've got it nailed. If we've forgotten anything, let us know as well. Just drop me a message.
Because we did. We forgot something, so let us know.
But we'll know. And any other topics you guys like to listen to, also let us know, and we'll get that recorded. We've got plenty of content to come.
Yeah, thanks, Gareth. This was great. I love talking to you.
No worries. Okay, thanks everyone for listening, and we'll see you soon.
All right, bye, guys.